Picking up where we left off, with Ultramar's borders aflame and Guilliman far from home, another story was unfolding. A story of sacrifice, legacy, and rebirth. The Second Company of the Ultramarines has always been more than a tactical formation, more than a lineage of captains who bear the weight of command. It is a symbol, a living testament to the ideals that Roboute Guilliman himself inscribed into the very soul of his legion. But in the dark years following the opening of the Great Rift, that symbol would be tested like never before. Captain Sevastus Acran, the warrior who led the Second through the fires of the Indomitus Crusade, would make a choice that would echo across Ultramar, a choice that would cost him everything, and yet grant another fallen hero the chance to rise again. This is the story of how Acran fell, and how Demetrian Titus, once disgraced and exiled, reclaimed the mantle he thought lost forever. Sevastus Acran was not with Cato Sicarius when the knight champion of Macragge vanished into the churning madness of the Great Rift, swallowed by the warp for 5 long years. While Sicarius's ship drifted through dimensions unknown, Acran stood ready, assuming command of the Second Company during one of the most turbulent periods in Imperial history. He was the quintessential modern Ultramarine captain, forged in the fires of the Indomitus Crusade and tempered by conflicts that would have broken lesser commanders. Vigilus, the sentinel world at the mouth of the Nachmund Gauntlet, saw him lead his brothers against the tide of chaos and Xenos alike, holding the line when all seemed lost. Within the Pariah Nexus, that cursed region where the very warp recoiled from reality, Acran prosecuted campaigns against the Necrons with tactical precision that would have made Guilliman himself nod in approval. During the Plague Wars, when Mortarian's diseased legions sought to corrupt Ultramar at its heart, Acran's Second Company stood as an unbreakable bulwark, purging the rot from world after world. And when the Fourth Tyrannic War brought the shadow of Hive Fleet Leviathan to the Imperium's doorstep, Acran was there, blade in hand, cutting through chitin and horror with the cold efficiency of a surgeon excising a cancer. But it was not only in war that Acran would leave his mark on the chapter's history. It was under his command that the Second Company reclaimed one of the Ultramarines' most legendary warriors, a ghost who had walked among the Death Watch as a black shield, nameless and forgotten. In the Residia system, as Acran's forces battled the tendrils of Hive Fleet Leviathan and the sorcerous machinations of the Thousand Suns, they encountered a lone warrior whose skill in battle defied comprehension, whose tactical acumen rivaled that of the Codex itself. That warrior was Demetrian Titus, and though his name had been stricken from the rolls of the chapter, his deeds spoke louder than any record. Acran recognized what others had failed to see, that this was no ordinary warrior, that the Emperor himself had preserved this son of Ultramar for a purpose yet unfulfilled. The reclamation of Titus would become one of Acran's greatest achievements, but perhaps he understood even then that it was not chance that had brought them together, that the threads of fate were weaving a pattern beyond mortal comprehension. Titus's path to redemption had been long and dark, a journey through shadows that would have consumed a lesser soul. A decade after assuming command of the Second Company, Captain Titus had led the defense of the Forge World Greya against the Orc Waak of Warboss Grimskull and the Chaos Sorcerer Nemeroth. He slew Nemeroth, tore the heart from the Chaos plot, and saved the Forge World from damnation, yet his reward was chains and suspicion. Leandros, his own subordinate, questioned Titus's resistance to Chaos corruption, and Inquisitor Thrax took the captain into custody, removing him from his chapter and subjecting him to interrogations that stripped away everything he had known. The irony would become apparent only later, when Thrax himself fell to the very chaos he had sworn to fight, consumed by the darkness and purged by the Grey Knights who cleansed his holdings. Titus, freed from captivity but broken in spirit, could not bring himself to return to the Ultramarines, believing he had brought shame upon the chapter that had forged him. Instead, he chose exile, donning the black armor of a Deathwatch Black Shield and forsaking his name, his honors, his very identity. For years, Titus fought in the shadows, a nameless warrior waging the Emperor's secret wars against Xenos horrors across the galaxy. He became a legend among the Deathwatch, a Black Shield whose skill was matched only by his silence, his refusal to speak of the past that haunted him. But the Emperor has a way of calling back the lost, of reclaiming those who believe themselves beyond redemption. In the Reclamation system, when the Ultramarines fought against impossible odds, Titus stood revealed, and Acran saw not a disgrace, but a hero, not a failure, but a warrior whose faith had been tested and found unbreakable. The reclamation was not immediate, for Titus had to prove himself anew, not to the chapter, but to himself. He fought alongside Acran's forces, his victories against the Tyranids and the Thousand Suns silencing the whispers that had followed him for so long. When the campaigns in the Reclamation system concluded, Titus did not vanish back into the shadows, but instead accepted the truth that Acran and others had seen all along, that he belonged among his brothers, that his place was in the Second Company. But the galaxy is cruel, and the Imperium never grants peace to those who serve it. Acran's greatest triumph, the reclamation of Titus, would be followed by his greatest sacrifice, a decision that would define his legacy and shape the future of the Second Company in ways no one could have foreseen. The hive world of Trigg stood as a vital stronghold in the Pyre-Mote system, a bastion against the encroaching shadow of Hive Fleet Leviathan. Its vast manufactorums produced weapons and munitions for the Imperial war machine. Its PDF regiments stood ready to repel invasion, and its loyalty to the Emperor was unquestioned, or so it seemed. When a Munitorum survey vessel and its escort of Mordian Iron Guard vanished without a trace, letting out a single psychic scream that tore through the warp before silence claimed them, the Ultramarines knew something was terribly wrong. Acran led a strike force to investigate, accompanied by his decorated lieutenant, Brother Chiron, a warrior whose skill and dedication mirrored that of his captain. What they found on Trigg was not an external invasion, but an internal rot, a cancer that had been growing unseen for generations. A powerful gene-stealer cult had embedded itself in the primary hive, its tendrils stretching from the undercity slums all the way up to the glittering spires where the planetary governors ruled. The cult's influence was absolute, its corruption total, and its timing catastrophic. The uprising had already begun, the signal sent to the approaching hive fleet, and the world stood on the brink of annihilation. Acran and his warriors fought their way through the hive, encountering hordes of cultists driven mad by their Xenos masters, their humanity stripped away and replaced with the hunger of the great devourer. The captain assessed the situation with a cold tactical analysis that had defined his career, and he realized the terrible truth: the cult could not be allowed to spread beyond the primary hive, for if it did, the entire system would fall. The psychic beacon had already been lit, the Tyranids were coming, and if Trigg fell with its defenses compromised, the Pyre-Mote system and the vulnerable sector beyond would be consumed. Acran made his decision, and it was one that no warrior should ever have to make. He activated the hive's anti-atomic lockdown protocols, sealing the massive structure from the inside, trapping himself and his entire strike force within the city with a nearly endless horde of enraged cultists. The lockdown was designed to contain atomic threats, to prevent contamination from spreading, and once activated, it could not be undone from within. Acran knew this, knew that he and every brother who had landed on Trigg were now condemned to fight and die in the darkness of that hive. But he also knew that this was the only way to save the world, the only way to preserve the sector, the only way to honor the oaths he had sworn. Perhaps that was his fate all along, to stand as the bulwark against the darkness, to pay the ultimate price so that others might live. The Second Company had always been the master of the Watch's command, responsible for fortifying Ultramar's borders and defending the realm, and Acran fulfilled that duty to the very end. The battles that followed were desperate beyond measure, a grinding war of attrition fought in the claustrophobic corridors and vast underhive expanses of Trigg's primary city. Acran and his brothers sold their lives dearly, cutting down untold numbers of Xenos hybrids, purging the cult chamber by chamber, level by level. Chiron fought at his captain's side, a beacon of martial excellence, even as the odds grew ever more insurmountable. But there are limits even to the endurance of the Adeptus Astartes, and the cultists were endless, spawning from hidden nests and surging forth in waves that could not be stemmed. Slowly, inexorably, the Ultramarines were worn down, their ammunition expended, their armor cracked, their gene-enhanced bodies pushed beyond the breaking point. When Imperial reinforcements finally arrived to purge the last remnants of the cult, they found a tomb, a monument to sacrifice and duty. Acran, Chiron, and every last space marine who had landed on Trigg had fallen, but they had achieved their objective. The cult was contained, the hive was sealed, and the sector was saved. The noble choice, to sacrifice himself and his brothers, had kept the Gene Stealer cult bottled up and prevented certain doom from spreading across the region. In the wake of Acran's death, the Second Company stood without a leader, and the question of succession loomed large over the chapter. The loss of such a decorated captain would have been devastating at any time, but in the midst of Guilliman's expansion of Ultramar, when every resource was stretched thin and every world needed defending, the absence of leadership in the Second Company could not be tolerated. Yet even as the Ultramarines mourned Acran, the answer to their needs had already been forged in the fires of war. Demetrian Titus had continued to prove himself after his reclamation, fighting with a fury and skill that reminded veterans of the chapter's greatest heroes. His legendary victory against the Tyranids and Thousand Sons in the Residius system had been only the beginning, a prelude to further triumphs that would silence even the most skeptical voices. On ZUJ, Titus led a seemingly suicidal mission to destroy Chaos artifacts, walking into the heart of darkness and emerging victorious when all expected him to fall. In the Bustier subsector, he waged war against Tyranid splinter fleets, defending worlds that stood in the shadow of Leviathan's advance. With each battle, each victory, the whispers of his past disgrace faded, replaced by a new understanding that Titus had never been weak, never been corrupted, but had instead endured trials that would have shattered lesser warriors. The elevation of Titus to captain of the Second Company was not a matter of chance or convenience, but a recognition of destiny fulfilled. Misgivings from many of his peers had long since been silenced, and when the mantle passed to him, it felt not like a new appointment, but like a restoration of the natural order, as if Titus had always been meant to lead the Second Company, as if his fall and redemption had been part of a greater design. Some within the Librarius whispered that Roboute Guilliman himself had foreseen this, that the Primarch's hand moved in ways mortals could not comprehend, guiding events from afar to ensure that Ultramar would have the leaders it needed in the dark times ahead. Perhaps Acran's sacrifice had not been a tragedy, but a necessity, a test of Ultramar's spiritual resilience, and a clearing of the path for Titus's return. Perhaps the Emperor, working through his son, had orchestrated the entire sequence of events, from Titus's fall on Graia to his exile among the Death Watch, from his reclamation in Residius to his trials in Bustier, all leading to this moment when he would once again assume command and swear to honor his former captain's legacy. Titus took up the role of captain and master of the Watch, assuming responsibility for fortifying the borders of Ultramar and defending the realm even as Guilliman commanded its expansion. The task is difficult in the extreme, for every new conquest drains resources, every new world requires protection, and the enemies of the Imperium are endless. But Titus is exactly the warrior for this duty, a commander who has walked through the darkness and emerged unbroken, who has known disgrace and found redemption, who understands that duty transcends honor and that sacrifice is the currency of survival. The Wardens of Ultramar add their substantial strength to his cause, an elite brotherhood of veterans who stand ready to reinforce any threatened sector. And Titus commands an agile fleet of strike cruisers capable of rapid deployment across Ultramar's expanding borders. He leads not with pride, but with quiet strength, not with arrogance, but with the wisdom born of suffering and perseverance. There are those who speculate about the deeper meaning behind these events, who seek patterns in the chaos and divine will in the machinery of war. Some believe that Acran's death was foreseen by Guilliman, that the Primarch knew the cost of expansion and accepted it as necessary for the survival of Ultramar and the Imperium beyond. Others whisper that Titus's return was the Emperor's correction, a warrior too pure to be left in exile, a hero whose trials were meant to purify rather than destroy. Still others see the destruction of Trigg as symbolic, marking the end of the old Ultramar, where loyalty and duty were unquestioned but rigid, and the rise of a new era where faith and flexibility must coexist, where leaders like Titus, who have known darkness and chosen the light, are needed more than ever. These interpretations may all contain fragments of truth, or they may be the desperate attempts of mortals to find meaning in events that defy comprehension. But one thing remains certain: the Second Company has found its leader, and that leader will shape the future of Ultramar in ways we cannot yet foresee. The road ahead is fraught with peril, for Ultramar faces threats on all fronts. The Necrons stir in the darkness, their ancient dynasties awakening with plans millennia in the making, and the 500 Worlds campaign looms on the horizon, a test of everything Guilliman has built and everything Titus has sworn to defend. The Tyranid threat has not diminished, but grown. Hive fleet leviathans, tendrils reaching ever deeper into Imperial space, and the forces of chaos never rest, always probing for weakness, always seeking to corrupt and destroy. In this environment, Titus must be more than a warrior. He must be a symbol, a reminder that redemption is possible, that the fallen can rise again, that the Emperor protects those who never cease to serve. His past, once a source of shame, has become his greatest strength, for he understands what it means to lose everything and fight to reclaim it, and that understanding makes him the perfect guardian for Ultramar's borders during its most vulnerable expansion. Acran's legacy lives on in every decision Titus makes, in every battle the Second Company fights, in every world they defend. The sacrifice on Trigg was not in vain, for it preserved a sector and restored Hero, creating a chain of events that strengthened rather than weakened the Ultramarines. Perhaps this was always the Emperor's plan, to take a warrior broken by suspicion and forge him anew in the fires of exile and war, to show that even the most faithful can be tested, and that those who endure such tests emerge stronger than before. Or perhaps it was his curse, the eternal cycle of sacrifice and redemption that defines the Imperium, where every victory demands a price, and every hero must walk through darkness before finding the light. The truth may never be known, lost in the vast machinery of the Emperor's design, but the result is undeniable. Captain Demetrian Titus leads the Second Company once more, bearing the weight of two legacies, his own and Acran's, and preparing to face whatever horrors the galaxy unleashes next. But the Emperor has a way of calling back the lost, and perhaps that is the true lesson here. Titus was never meant to remain in exile, never meant to disappear into the shadows of the Death Watch, for the Second Company needed him, Ultramar needed him, and the Imperium needed him. Acran, in his final moments, sealed within the darkness of Trigg's hive, might have understood this, might have known that his death would pave the way for something greater. The captain who held the line during the Indomitus Crusade gave way to the captain who would defend Ultramar during its expansion. One era ending so another could begin, one sacrifice enabling another's ascension. This is the way of the Ultramarines, the way of Guilliman's sons, who understand that duty transcends individual glory, and that the chapter endures long after any single warrior falls. As Titus stands on the bridge of his flagship, gazing out at the stars that mark Ultramar's borders, he carries with him the memories of all who came before: Ageman, Trajan, Sicarius, Acran, and countless others whose names are inscribed in the chapter's halls of honor. He remembers Acran's final transmission, the calm acceptance in his voice as he activated the lockdown protocols, the knowledge that he was doing what needed to be done regardless of the cost. That memory drives Titus forward, reminds him why he wears the blue armor of the Ultramarines, why he bears the captain's laurels once again. The Second Company's legacy is not one of unbroken victory, but of enduring sacrifice, of leaders who understand that command means accepting the burden of impossible choices and living with the consequences. In the Chronicles of Ultramar, they will remember Captain Sevastus Acran as the warrior who gave everything to save a sector, who sealed himself and his brothers in darkness, so that others might see the light of another dawn. They will remember Lieutenant Chiron, who stood beside his captain to the very end, never faltering, never yielding. And they will remember Captain Demetrian Titus, the hero who fell and rose again, who was broken and made whole, who assumed command not with pride but with humility, carrying the weight of his predecessor's sacrifice as both burden and blessing. These are the warriors who define the Second Company, who embody everything it means to be an Ultramarine, who prove that even in the grim darkness of the far future, Where there is only war, there is also honor, duty, and the unwavering belief that sacrifice has meaning. The 500 worlds await, their borders expanding at Guilliman's command, their defenses strained by the relentless expansion. Titus will lead the Second Company in this new era, fulfilling the duties of the Master of the Watch with the same dedication that Acran showed, the same unwavering commitment that has always defined the Ultramarines. The Necrons gather in the shadows, ancient and inscrutable, their plans unfolding across millennia. But Titus and his brothers stand ready. They have faced the darkness before, have walked through the valley of death and emerged unscathed, and they will do so again, for this is their purpose. This is their calling. This is the Emperor's will made manifest through his sons. But what do you think? Was this the Emperor's plan? To forge Titus anew through suffering and exile? To use Acran's sacrifice as the catalyst for a greater destiny? Or was it his curse, the endless cycle of loss and redemption that defines the Imperium, where every hero must pay a price beyond measure? Let me know your theories below. And remember, the light of the Imperium always casts a shadow.